bulk of Sandler's money was paid in a different deal.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that's
That had to be all that. It has to, all that stuff has to be, worked out in that way because there's no way $21 million.
Wow.
And they did have a limited release in theaters that I did see. I don't know what the, it doesn't really have a opening weekend gross because it is just limited release. I think maybe they had an agreement to release in the theater, so they had to release it in some theaters. But the opening weekend was 4/3, and then the streaming started on 4/8, so of 2022. So,
Does a movie still need to be theatrically released to be considered for like an Oscar?
not anymore. I don't think
No.
anymore because I think Netflix and all them, they don't have to be, right? I
No,
don't know.
they have to have it's nominal, but they need a week in theaters.
A
So
week of okay.
they'll
So that's
usually
what
put
this was.
something out. It doesn't even have to be in a lot of theaters. It just
Yeah.
has to be shown in a theater for a limited period of time to be eligible.
Okay.
Huh.
So there you go. And that's probably
There might be things, negotiations for that to change. The landscape is ever evolving, and there's so many original movies coming out that don't get theaters that do want Oscar attention or potential for
Did
recognition.
Everything Everywhere All the Time go into the theaters? Is that what
Oh
it's
yeah, that's
called?
where I saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everywhere at once. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I thought that was just streaming. Okay.
Because you recall Killers of the Flower Moon was predominantly Netflix, but they did have a limited release so that it could be eligible for Oscars.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's probably what this was too. It's like a week just so that it was eligible. So there's no opening weekend gross, but the total gross, and I don't know how they figured this out either because of the streaming and stuff like that, but the total US gross was 35.4 million. And then the worldwide gross is 94.4 million. Again, not sure how they come up with those grosses because of it's a Netflix movie, but that's the information I got on Rotten Tomatoes.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was an hour and 58 minutes, like Amber mentioned. The Rotten Tomatoes score and the audience score is the same score, 93. So very, very high ratings for audience and critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for The Hustle. I pulled critic Robert Levin, who said, Hustle is worth seeing even if you don't like basketball. That says it all. So he was a fan of the movie, and he said, even if you don't like basketball, you'll like it. So Metacritic. And also remember, Steve's is one of these Metacritics. I just want to put that up beforehand because sometimes I'll say it afterwards and you're not listening for what Steve.
Don't give away hints, Jim. Damn it.
I do such a good job that I want to give them a little better.
That is true. I'm curious what you did for the Scout because I could not find anyway.
Well, that's what the caveat, the Scout, there were no Metacritic reviews for the Scout. So I had to pull Rotten Tomatoes. So it is a little harder. They're not as good. The names aren't as good, all that stuff. But here is Metacritic for The Hustle. Metacritic score 68 and user score 7.1, which is pretty high for Metacritic. I mean, they don't really have high scores, but it wasn't as high as Rotten Tomatoes at all, for sure. All right, first one, Intake Cinema. Gave it a 7. I think The Hustle overstays its welcome just one step. It should have ended at the Combine, but I enjoyed Hustle way more than I expected. I don't know anything about basketball. I don't care about basketball, but it's a good movie and it can make you care. I did not write this, by the way. Hustle did that for me. I love when Sandler takes more dramatic roles. He's passionate about the game, and that shines through here. Which is pretty good because that's kind of what we said.
Yeah.
The next one is Cosmo Table. Was not a fan, gave it a 1. Extremely dull and predictable, as if a computer algorithm wrote the script with a hard code to avoid risk and with casting big names and NBA cameos to keep the audience interest. Short scenes featuring Anthony Edwards were the only highlights in this bore of a feel-good sports film.
Wow.
So not a fan.
That feels inaccurate.
Yeah, he just was not a fan. But he was a fan of Anthony Edwards, so. And the last one, the Matthew W., gave it an 8. Adam Sandler can do no wrong. I like this movie, and the basketball was on another level, which makes it easier to watch. The only issue I have is the relationship between Sandler and his wife. Enough said. If you want a movie that has some humor and great basketball, watch Hustle. If you want a romantic story, don't. Sorry.
Is that like he doesn't like interracial relationships or something?
So Matthew
didn't care for that.
Little sus.
Yeah.
So those are the 3. Intake Cinema gave it a 7. He said the movie was a little long. He kind of had the same kind of view of the movie as we did. Cosmo Table hated it, thought it was a computer algorithm. And Matthew W. is racist. I'm kidding. Matthew W. Loves Adam Sandler, didn't like the romantic part of the movie.
I'm thinking it's 2 or 3. I'm waffling.
I would love some waffles right now.
I'll go 2.
2?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
And
it was my first instinct.
2? Cosmo Table. Steve, which one were you?
Number 3, the racist.
Oh,